AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You, sir. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there, make it a good one. Dave Kaplan in 13 minutes. ESPN 1000 up in Chicago. We'll talk about Bears. Russ Mitchell next hour. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. Tigers take on Vanderbilt up in Nashville this weekend. LSU, a 2.5-point underdog at Vandy. What an epic line that is. I mean, Vanderbilt hasn't been a favorite in an SEC game in like 40 years. It's insane. It's just insane that that this is going down this way. But Tigers have a great opportunity. Vanderbilt coming off their bye. It's something that Clark Lee on Tuesday when he met with reporters, talked about. Excuse me, that was Wednesday on the SEC coaches teleconference. Talked about the bye for Vanderbilt, where it fell on their schedule coming off the loss against Alabama.
Well, we needed it. We've been relatively healthy, but we needed a mental reset. And I think that's true of every team. I mean, training camp plus 6 games is a long time to stay in process. But I also feel like on the flip side of that, there's something about staying in the rhythm. You miss being out there on Saturday. It's hard sometimes to watch games on the bye week just because, you feel like you should be prepping yourself. So we took advantage of getting a couple days. It also lined up with our academic calendars, fall break. So we were able to get the guys home, and, it's been good to get back on the field. And obviously, anytime you're playing against LSU, you're playing against a really good team, and it creates a big stage. So we're excited for that opportunity.
Of course, Brian Kelly and Clark Lee have their notable appreciation of one another. And if you're not familiar, so when Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame, Clark Lee was his defensive coordinator. So we went through this storyline a bit a year ago when they faced off against each other in Baton Rouge in the penultimate game of the regular season. But when Brian Kelly was talking about Clark Lee on Monday, he just talked about how detail-oriented Clark Lee is. And a lot of that is consistent, and it's understandable why Clark Lee has had the success that he has at Vanderbilt. Not to say that it's not amazing, because no one, aside from James Franklin, in the last century has had consistent success at Vanderbilt until what Clark Lee has done now for a year plus, which is mighty impressive. And Brian Kelly, when he was on the SEC Coaches Teleconference Wednesday, kind of talked a little bit about how he first became familiar with and acquainted with Clark Lee.
Well, when Mike Elko was my defensive coordinator, Mike and Clark knew each other very well, worked together, and so there was an existing relationship there. So I brought him in when Mike was my defensive coordinator as a linebacker coach. So, got a great opportunity to see him firsthand, work firsthand with him prior to elevating him to the coordinator's position when Mike left to be the DC at A&M.
It's so interesting for Clark Lee, because it's something you don't always see, where Clark Lee played at Vanderbilt, was a fullback, but he made his hay as a coach as a defensive coordinator. So it's interesting that a guy who played offense really establishes foothold nationally as a defensive coordinator, now as the head coach at his alma mater. And he's built an impressive staff, man. Tim Beck is the offensive coordinator there, who's a veteran coach. Steve Gregory is the defensive coordinator, and they have co-DCs there as well, but Clark Lee handles a lot on that side of the ball. And, of course, Jerry Kill, who you might remember has had multiple stops, really most notably his time at Minnesota, is like the chief consultant to the head coach. I mean, when you look at their website, I mean, it's Clark Lee, and then the next line down is Jerry Kill before you get to the coordinator. So there's some really experienced coaches on that Vanderbilt staff, notably on the defensive side as well. And that's going to be so critical to watch this matchup with Clark Lee, who's got this reputation as a great defensive mind, and Vanderbilt, who's been so good in their defensive front seven despite their struggles in the secondary. And, Clark Lee and Vanderbilt's defense trying to match Garrett Nussmeier in this LSU offense. And when Lee met with reporters this week, he gave sort of his feeling on what he's seen so far from Garrett Nussmeier in the first half of the season.
Well, I mean, the quarterback's really good, and I thought he played really well against us a year ago. One of the things about him too is, we have him at 20 miles an hour on the GPS. I mean, he's athletic. If you have open lanes in your pass rush, he's gonna find ways through and can hurt you running too. But obviously, his skill set is getting the ball out quickly. I think he avoids sacks as good as anyone in the country because he knows where to go with the ball. He's throwing it to really talented people.
By the way, I love that Clark Lee went there, saying Nussmeier avoids sacks as well as anyone in the country because he knows where to go with the football. I've shared these numbers with you already, but in case you missed it, Vanderbilt this year, through 6 games, is tied for 14th in the country with 18 sacks. So they average 3 sacks a game. 6 games played, 18 sacks. And there's no outlier. It's not like they had one game where they had 7 against an FCS school. It's 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4. So low of 2, max of 4. In 4 of their games, they've had 3 sacks. So they have been consistent. The flip side of it is LSU has only allowed 7 sacks in 6 games because of what Clark Lee just said there. Garrett Nussmeier is very good at being decisive, knowing where to go with the football, and getting the football out. Now, that therein lies part of the game within the game, which is Nussmeier, who's very good at getting rid of the football, LSU's offensive line, which has struggled in the run blocking, but has been much better in pass protection. That's true if you look at the sack numbers, the TFL numbers, if you go through PFF, which I always tell you is something to consider. When a lot of those things align, it kind of tells you, it can sort of tell you the whole story, and you can piece it all together. But Clark Lee made no bones about it. Like, they've got to be able to pressure Nussmeier in this game because of how much a talented quarterback and really athletic, talented receivers can hurt this Vanderbilt defense.
Obviously, he does a good job getting rid of the ball. So sometimes that's going to be getting hands up and hoping to impact the flight of the ball. If you can steal an incompletion that way, that's great. If you can speed up his timing, right? He does a good job when he sees it clearly getting the ball out. But if we can somehow speed up that operation, I think a lot of the pressure comes down to those critical third down or conversion down snaps where, can we find a way to manipulate a protection to get a free runner or compress a pocket on a 3rd and long situation where routes can't develop to the sticks? That becomes the way to win the game. He's going to make it hard on you on early downs just because of how smart he is and how well he sees the field. But there will be opportunities for us in determined pass downs to create a little push, and that's been a focus for our defensive line.
Determined pass downs. Determined pass downs. 3rd and long. You get into 3rd and long, they know you're throwing it. That's where the opportunity presents itself. For the record, in that game against Alabama, and don't let the 30-14 final score fool you. Y'all saw, if you watched the game, Jam Miller ripped off a run at the end of the game to give you the final margin because it was 23-14. And even still, that was an opportunity in the 4th quarter where Vanderbilt was driving and had a chance to go take the lead when Pavia threw the interception there at the goal line. So this was a close ball game. Vanderbilt sacked Ty Simpson 4 times. They only had 2 passes defensed the entire game. And this was a game where Ty Simpson threw it 31 times. He was 23 of 31 for 340. He averaged 11 yards per attempt. Y'all, like, that is, every time, not per reception, per attempt. Every time he threw the ball, they were getting on average, they were getting a first down. There are plays to be made in that secondary, but Clark Lee just told you the secret sauce. You've got to avoid if you're LSU, avoid third and long being an obvious passing downs. And the flip side of it is Brian Kelly told you the key to defending Diego Pavia, which is keep him in the pocket and make him a passer because that's where they are weaker. So this is one of those games where it's very obvious where the strengths and weaknesses are for both and what both teams are going to try to avoid. Who can execute their plan best will determine who wins that game Saturday in Nashville. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Gents, if you're thinking of getting engaged, make sure you get by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Which one? Any of them. There's 10 of them. There's 2 in Baton Rouge, Lafayette, New Orleans, Shreveport. They're all over. Start there at the website, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Thrill her with a gift in the red box. And I always point out that they have 10 stores because that matters. Because when you have the purchasing power for 10 stores, you're able to get a great selection and great value that you can pass on to your customer. So it's not cookie cutter like the big box stores. It's not, the boutique jeweler, which is, maybe a smaller selection and it's overpriced. Lee Michaels is that perfect in between. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. All right, let's head up to Chicago. Dave Kaplan, ESPN 1000's next. We'll talk about the Bears AFR presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness.
AFR.
Let's rev, y'all. Let'sRev.com. Let'sRev.com. You already know about Rev. We're encouraging you to switch to Rev. Louisiana's largest privately owned and operated internet service provider. It is known for its 5-star customer service and reliability. And now Rev is powered by an all-fiber network backed by local support teams right here in South Louisiana. Rev has a 90-year legacy of local service. Rev has got you covered. So log on to letsrev.com, R-E-V, letsrev.com, letsrev.com for your home or for your business. I can tell you, honest to goodness, true story, this week on Monday in our neighborhood, the Rev crews were in our front yard digging up the yard, laying fiber. I cannot wait to have Rev fiber at our house. You should have it at your home, your office as well. Learn more at letsrev.com. Switch today, letsrev.com.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com. Who dat say they're gonna beat them Saints? Let's head behind enemy lines to preview this week's matchup.
Bears are 3-2 as the Saints head up to Soldier Field. Dave Kaplan, ESPN 1000. Good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Hey, Dave, we always appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Be doing better if the Saints weren't 1-5, but part of a rebuild. Dave, it's interesting hearing a lot of the scuttle coming out of this past the Monday Night Football win about how Ben Johnson, in a relatively short amount of time, has already started to change the culture, kind of stemming back from training camp. If you were to define the culture change from a year ago to now within the Bears, the roster, the organization, the team, however you want, what would you say are the biggest changes?
Oh, God, massive. Like, I'm not going to tell you that Matt Eberflus, our old coach, now the DC in Dallas, doesn't know football. I'd be an idiot to tell you that. He obviously does. You don't become an NFL head coach or a high-level coordinator if you don't know the game. He was an awful head coach. I mean, truly an awful head coach. And that goes to melting down in some of the biggest moments of the season, like the Thanksgiving Day game in Detroit, where they just they're in field goal range to tie the game at the very least. And he doesn't get a timeout called, and he hasn't. And we take the timeouts back with us, like, you remember the old cell phone minutes that would roll over? Yeah, only they don't roll over. And he got fired after that. That was the end of him. But it had been brewing for a long time because I had multiple players tell me off the air. They said, dude, this guy's, he's a nice man. He's a horrific head coach. No level of accountability. Ben Johnson is intense. He is passionate. And he is all about accountability. I mean, it went back to training camp. Caleb and the first-team offense are on the field. We're all there watching this. It's not as though this was private and it's hearsay. We're watching this, and they don't get lined up properly. And he says, get the F off the field. And he pulls him and puts the second string in. And we asked Ben after practice, what was that about? They didn't get lined up, and they should know better. So I kicked them out of the play. And then they got to come back in and try it again. But, I had one of their star players I had dinner with. And he said, let me just tell you the difference between the two guys. If Eberflus was standing there and said, hey, team policy, we don't touch this chair anymore. He goes, now touch the chair. And I touched the chair, and he said, yeah, we probably don't want to touch the chair. It's kind of a point of emphasis, but no big deal if you did. He said, and then if it's Ben Johnson, what in the F are you doing? I will cut your ass. You'll be out of here. You know what the rules are. You're fairly warned. The next time, you will be looking for a new franchise. He said, everyone's like, oh, wow, this guy means business. Another example is, under Eberflus, you could eat your breakfast during the team meetings. So guys would show up, grab their omelet or whatever, slouch in the chair, be eating while he's talking. They tried that the first day that Ben Johnson was on the job, and he stops. He goes, what is all this? What do you mean, Coach? What is with the food? Get it out of here. We're here to work. That's it. You want to eat after? Fine. You want to eat before? Get here earlier. Get the food out of here. We're here to work from this point forward. And it was an adjustment period because some guys can handle being coached super hard, super intense, profanely. Some guys can't. Not everybody can handle that. The culture here, these dudes love playing for him. And it's not easy. It's hard. But guess what? You're starting to see progress here with the Chicago Bears.
Faster than many might have anticipated. Of course, when you have the number one pick in the draft, playing the most important position in organized team sports, that helps. So, year 2 under Caleb Williams, where have you noticed the most growth?
He does not look as skittish in the pocket. His footwork looks better. He's still not accurate enough with the ball. Sure, people are going to miss some deep throws. That will happen. But Caleb has got to hit, some of the slants the other night. Now, the one he hit, Zacchaeus, in the fourth quarter, that is a touchdown every day of the week, and Zacchaeus dropped it. And that can't happen. That just cannot happen. He has got to secure that. There's no one in front of him, and he's gone. 88 out of the gate. See you later. Thanks for coming. And it would have been a massive touchdown for the Bears. But Caleb Williams just looks better. When we got the ball in Vegas, I was there. We got the ball and have a chance to drive down the field to take the lead. And guess what? I knew once he had the football, I knew our guy is going to deliver. He is going to come through and deliver a strike. And he did just that. And we win the football game on the block kick. The other night, we get the ball after the fumble. And guess what? I knew he was going to take us down and get us in position. Were we going to make the kick? Bears teams in the past, they don't win that football game that way. And he did. He got us down there. We made the kick. Game over. Bears have won 3 in a row. So that's the biggest positive about Caleb Williams. He just needs a little more accuracy.
Dave Kaplan is our guest on Twitter at @TheCap, K-A-P, The Cap Man, if you want to give him a follow, ESPN 1000 in Chicago. So this game has a different layer of intrigue, Dave, because obviously the Saints' former coach Dennis Allen's now the DC in Chicago. How has that transition gone with DA there through the first 5 games?
Phenomenal. They absolutely love this guy. The players have said, as they call him, DA. Kevin Byard, I sat down and did an interview with, who's our all-pro safety. And Kevin Byard said, let me just tell you something right now. That guy is, his quote, militaristic. He said, this is the most intense coach I have ever played for. He is militaristic in his approach, but we love him. He is all ball. He is all about us doing things the right way. And, we're not blessed with the greatest pass rush personnel, but somehow the other day they found a way to stop the number one rushing attack, and they found a way to win a football game. That's it. Nobody
has ever discredited Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator. The head coach in New Orleans wasn't great, but the dude knows defense. That's undeniable. So Dave, you got a couple of second-year quarterbacks. We know the Saints have had a tough time finding wins. If there is a path for New Orleans maybe to expose something on that Bears defense, what do you think is the vulnerability?
For New Orleans?
I'm sorry, the vulnerability in the Bears defense.
Bears defense. Okay. I would say you've got to stay wedded to the run. I know I read Alvin Kamara did not practice today, but I'm assuming he's going to go. You have to stay wedded to the run game and then hope that Chicago doesn't do the job they did the other night, slowing down McCroskey Merritt from Washington and slowing down that rushing game. Because if they do, I think you're in a lot of trouble against our team. But if you can run the football, you can absolutely come in here and beat them.
It's interesting because you just look statistically, the Bears allowing 28 points a game. That's near the bottom of the NFL. Is that just a bit? I mean, I know the Lions game was 52. Is it really just that outlier that skewed that?
Yeah, the Lion game, they were lying in wait for our guy, Ben Johnson. They were tired of hearing, and they love Ben.
Yeah.
But I heard Brian Branch and others after the game say, we're sick and tired of hearing, well, the Lions are nothing without Ben Johnson being there. And so they were going to send a message, and they absolutely did. And Ben said, it's not fun to go through, but guess what? We will treat it as a learning experience, and we will find a way to turn this thing around, and they haven't lost since.
The Bears are 3-2. They're winners of 3 straight. This is one you would assume, Dave, if the Bears are going to make a playoff push, you got to get at home against the New Orleans Saints. What is Ben Johnson's blueprint to beat New Orleans Sunday there at Soldier Field?
Run the football like they did the other night, where all of a sudden they made a change at left tackle. Braxton Jones out. Theo Benedette, an undrafted free agent who sat out last year with injury, but made his first career start at left tackle against the Commanders. Theo Benedette at left tackle. They got Darnell Wright, their top 10 pick a couple years ago, back. He's playing with a torn ulnar collateral ligament, but he braced it up, and he was magnificent in that game. And as I heard someone on NFL Network put it, when I thought about the quote, you know what, that's a great way to put it, and I've used that quote on our radio show, that he said that instead of 5 guys grabbing an instrument and trying to make a band, the Bears played like a symphony on the offensive line the other night. That's a great way to put it. 100% a great way to put it.
Saints and Bears Sunday from Chicago at Soldier Field. He's Dave Kaplan, ESPN 1000 in Chicago. Y'all get him on Twitter at @TheCapMan. Man, we always appreciate the time in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Dude, anytime, man. I have affinity for down there. I was engaged to a girl from Crowley, Louisiana.
Let's go. We're on we're on the entire I-10 corridor to Lafayette to Lake Charles. So plenty of folks in Crowley are paying attention. Our buddy Ryan Terrio told me to tell you hello also.
Oh, my guy. I love that guy. That dude is one of my favorite Chicago athletes that ever came through here. Love that guy.
Do people there still love him, or are they still sour about the right side of the rivalry thing when he went to St. Louis?
I think they're past it now. I'm just telling you, Ryan Terrio, that one of my all-time favorites. That dude was awesome to deal with.
Yeah, man. He's a pretty good dude. We appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for the time, man.
All right, have a great one. See you.
Be well. Dave Kaplan, ESPN 1000 in Chicago. Does a great job as always. Terrio is the one who connected us with Dave years ago, and anytime we need anything Chicago, we call on him. He's good enough to come on the show. We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Listen, it doesn't matter for what reason you might be buying land. Maybe you're just thinking about an investment property, right? Ask your CPA. Sometimes buying timber property might be a great investment as we near the end of the year. You're thinking of tax write-offs, talk to your CPA. See if that can make sense. Maybe you want to build your family's dream home. You want to work in the city but enjoy the rural lifestyle. You can do that. It happens a ton for people who work in New Orleans but want to live on the North Shore. So they got an office in Tangipahoa, right there in Amite. So you want to buy land on the North Shore, Covington, Mandeville, wherever it is there in the North Shore, and commute into the city every day? Great opportunity to do it. First South Farm Credit can make it happen. Need 1,000 acres for agriculture, and not just in Louisiana. They can help you buy land anywhere in the lower 48. So you want to buy 2,000 acres in North Dakota? I don't know why, but if you do, they can help you do it. FirstSouthLand.com, FirstSouthLand.com. Thinking of buying land? Your first call should be to First South Farm Credit, FirstSouthLand.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Glad you're hanging out with us here. Thanks to Dave Kaplan for being here. We will get to Russ Mitchell in 45 minutes. Talk a little SEC football with the weekend ahead almost nigh. Well, now I got a break. Our Hump Day shows are brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, yourgoodwood.com. That's yourgoodwood.com. When we come back, yesterday we went through Mel Kiper's first big board. Well, we have our first ESPN mock draft out for the coming, April NFL draft. And notably, where they project the Saints to pick, and one LSU Tiger in round one. And it may not be who you think it is. We'll get to that next on AFR.
After Further Review.
Man, I love telling you about Clegg's Nursery. I love going to Clegg's Nursery. Listen, if you're a deer hunter, hey, Matt, I thought they were a nursery and a garden center. They are. But they also have buckbusters and mobucks and deer corn and rice bran. So if you're setting your plots for this deer hunting season, go to Clegg's. Always encourage you to bypass the big box store. Bypass the big orange and blue box stores. You need your flowers and your plants and your trees and your shrubs and your garden tools and anything for insects or pests or any of those things that might be around your lawn, your garden, your home. They got everything you need, even floodlights and trash bags and things like that. Bypass the box store and support a great local business that's been in our community for 60 years. They got Johnny Naylor seeds as well. You plant that fall vegetable garden. Now's the time to get the seeds in the ground. Nobody has a better selection than Clegg's Nursery. And, of course, not too late. You know, we're creeping up on Halloween. You want that pumpkin scarecrow display, that fall display. They got everything you need. Buy local, shop local, tell them Matt sent you to Clegg's Nursery.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
We used to have Tigers in the pros coming up here shortly. We will get to the Saints injury report. Alvin Kamara was absent from practice today, so we will run through the full Saints injury report coming up here in about 25 minutes from right now, right at the top of hour number 3. So we'll run through the whole thing. But Kamara being absent, I'm inclined not to think much of it, especially considering he played this past weekend. It's probably one of those things where you're just managing the ankle injury. We'll get what Kellen Moore had to say about it after practice, but Kamara was a DNP along with Isaac Yiadom. That's no surprise there. But we'll run through the entire thing coming up here in just a little bit. I know while we're in the middle of a season, sometimes it's hard to think about the next season. But this is kind of the time of the year when the sample size of a college football season starts to grow, and also when you're getting to a point in the NFL season where teams start to reveal themselves, who are the contenders, who are not contenders, and you kind of get a sense of what teams might pick where and who might be in the market for what position. You know what I mean? And this is an evolution. It'll change a million times between now and April when the draft actually happens in Pittsburgh. But it is an interesting starting point. And Jordan Reed from ESPN put out his first mock draft. Mel Kiper a day ago put out his big board. Remember, the big board is just his power rating. It's not a mock draft. It's just here's the top 25 prospects regardless of position in the draft. And then he ranked the top 10 by position. Well, Jordan Reed put out a mock draft, and he has Fernando Mendoza from Indiana going number 1 overall to the Jets. And by the way, the draft order is chosen by their current standings. So the Jets taking Mendoza number 1, and then the Ravens picking number 2, which I don't think that's going to hold, obviously, because Lamar Jackson's going to come back and they're going to end up winning some games. But they're 1-5 right now. And he has the Ravens taking Reuben Bain out of Miami, the edge out of Miami. Now, I don't believe Baltimore is going to end up picking number 2. But what this does give you a sense is which teams that could be picking near the top are going to be in the market for a quarterback, and then what prospects that are not quarterbacks might be vying for those top 5, top 10 picks. Because from a Saints perspective, if New Orleans decides at the end of this year they're confident moving forward with Rattler and Shuck in whatever capacity, and they're picking top 10, then they're not looking at a quarterback. be it Mendoza or Dante Moore or Lenora Sellers or Ty Simpson or Garrett Nussmeier, whoever ends up in that conversation by the time you get to April. Who else might you be looking at? Well, he has Dante Moore the quarterback from Oregon, going 3 to Cleveland, and then Keldrick Falk, the edge from Auburn, going 4 to the Tennessee Titans. Then there's Caleb Downs, 5 to the Miami Dolphins. And I will tell you, for me, Caleb Downs is probably early, but probably going to be the most interesting player for the Saints to target in the top 10 if they are not going quarterback. Now, the Saints desperately need playmakers. That is objectively true. But the Saints also desperately need safety help. You drafted Jonas Sanker, you signed Justin Reed, but you saw Tyrann Mathieu leave in free agency, and you are not settled there. Safety, cornerback, receiver. Look, the Saints probably need everything. But part of what the remainder of this season will be finding out what young prospects you can count on. I don't think it's any surprise that a week ago we saw Pete Werner's snap count drop, and some of those snaps go to Isaiah Stallbird and Danny Stutzman. Look, you used a day 2 pick or an early day 3 pick on Danny Stutzman. And I think you got to figure out if you think he can be a starter. And if so, then maybe Pete Werner is a trade candidate at the deadline. And then Stutzman can be a linebacker for you moving next year starter. And is DeMario Davis retiring after this year? You got to find out what you have in these young players. So yes, you're trying to win games, but also this year you're trying to figure out what you have with this young talent. And by the way, in Reed's mock draft, he has the Saints choosing 6th and going defense. Arvell Reese, the linebacker out of Ohio State. Again, you could move on from Pete Werner after the season. DeMario Davis could retire, so you could be in desperate need of linebackers after this season. Receiver, playmaker, or anything on the defensive side would make an awful lot of sense. I mentioned that, by the way, Peter Woods from Clemson, 10th to the Cincinnati Bengals. Please draft an offensive lineman for Joe Burrow. And then Avion Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson, 16th to Minnesota. TJ Parker, the edge from Clemson, 17th to the Chicago Bears. So you're talking about a lot of draft talent that LSU faced in that season opener in Clemson. But there was one LSU Tiger mocked in the first round by Jordan Reed. And most people coming into this season would have assumed Garrett Nussmeier would be somewhere floating in the first round. Harold Perkins could certainly be a guy in those conversations. We've seen some mock drafts where Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson, Barian Brown, before the season, had been in those conversations. Whit Weeks is a guy who, another All-American caliber season, could leave early and potentially be a first-round pick. How about Mansour Delane? Listen, we have talked plenty about Mansour Delane here. The collective football world is taking notice. And Jordan Reed at ESPN has Mansour Delane mocked 13th overall to the Carolina Panthers. The write-up reads, Delane is the best cornerback in the 2026 draft and would fit well with the Panthers secondary that allows opposing quarterbacks a QBR of 63.7, sixth worst in the NFL. Delane has excelled since transferring from Virginia Tech. Opponents are completing just 24% of their passes into his coverage this season, sixth best in the FBS. He can mirror and match receivers in man coverage, and his awareness of passing concepts also makes him effective in zone coverage. What's I was thinking about this earlier today. And it might be just a fun exercise to go back and dig up some shows from fall camp. Because I remember there was this conversation early in fall camp about Mansour Delane maybe playing safety. And people were asking, could Delane potentially be a safety? And you were so bad at safety a year ago. And remember, you had Ashton Stamps and P.J. Woodland. And the thought, you can laugh at it now, but Stamps led the SEC in PBUs a year ago. And the thought was Stamps, Woodland, some of the young guys you brought in, DJ Pickett, the 5-star coming in this year. And you were so conceivably bad at safety, the thought was, could Mansour Delane maybe move and play safety? And the first time you go out there and watch him practice, you're like, yeah, no, he's the best cornerback on the team. Not only is he the best cornerback on the team, but according to Jordan Reed, he's the best cornerback in this draft class. And it shows. Brian Kelly on Monday at his press conference was asked about Mansour Delane. And he was asked like what they liked, but he also kind of joked when he said, like, whenever you were recruiting him, what was that recruiting pitch like?
It was a one-sided conversation, quite frankly. Once we had a connection where he wanted to be here, we did everything to consummate that deal.
He started it off by saying we begged, we pleaded, and you could tell like they thought they identified the best cornerback in the transfer portal. They did, they got him, and he's lived up to it. I mean, I'm sure Mansour Delane has to be bored at some times during games. I mean, he was targeted twice last week against South Carolina. Teams just don't throw at him. And then the game's on the line in South Carolina throws at Mansour Delane. Of course, he gets a PBU because he's fantastic. Anyway, that's one to watch. I mean, LSU has not had a true lockdown number one corner since Derek Stingley. They got one now, and it'll be fascinating to watch the remainder of the season, how it all plays out. So that's the updated mock draft. The first mock draft from Jordan Reed over at ESPN. Mansour Delane, the only LSU Tiger in it. They have the Saints taking a linebacker from Ohio State at 6th overall. Saints need just about everything. It's going to be hard to go wrong as long as you hit on the draft pick. All right, it's after further review. Hump Day shows are brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com. I always love telling you about the Williamson Eye Center. Dr. Blake Williamson, man, just I can't even imagine what it would be like. Look, I'm fortunate to do what I do. I sit on my butt and talk about sports all day. I always tell people maybe one day I'll grow up and get a real job, but as long as they're going to pay me to do this, I'll do it. And I love it. But, you know, Dr. Blake Williamson, like, changes people's lives every day. I mean, he gets to give people the gift of sight. It's incredible, and I know it because I've experienced it firsthand. I mean, I started wearing glasses in the 6th grade. I'm like many of you, just genetically have terrible eyes. My whole family does. God bless, my sister was wearing glasses when she was 5 years old. She was, just a little kid with glasses. My brother, too. And Brian, my brother, had LASIK. I think maybe when he was a senior in high school or something like that. And I just put it off forever. Needed it, but put it off forever. Until I met Dr. Blake 7 years ago. I went for the consultation. Turns out I was a perfect candidate for it. Made me feel so comfortable with the entire process. LASIK is the safest elective procedure in the history of mankind. And I couldn't have been happier. The only thing I wish I'd done differently was I'd done it, 20 years before. But the bottom line is, give yourself the gift of sight. Just schedule that consultation with Dr. Blake Williamson. No matter your age or your refractive issue, they have a solution for you at the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020. You want to see 2020, call 924-2020 or go to williamsoneye.com. All right, y'all, it is after further review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Let's see. We're going to knock out a break. Muse will have Tigers in the pros when we wrap up hour number 2. We will get into the Saints injury report, and Russ Mitchell is with us here in hour number 3. We missed Russ last week, but glad to have him back. We're going to dive into the weekend that was in the Southeastern Conference, and really a very a busy weekend ahead where we could see Billy Napier, according to a report from USA Today, coach his last game for the Florida Gators. Florida plays Mississippi State, then they go into their bye, which it would stand to reason is a good time. If you're going to make a change, you do it when you go into your open day. It allows for a little more time throughout that transition. So get into a lot with Russ as we continue here. Hour number 2, we'll wrap it up next on AFR.
After further review.
Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness is a place I'm proud to tell you about every single day because I love being able to tell people how you can feel like your younger self. And at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, they can help. Yes, at Goodwood, they do ED treatments. So if you have ED and you need help with that, they got many different solutions, from pills and injections and a lot of different stuff. If you need help, they got it. But so much of their business is hormone replacement therapy. Not only that, but also non-pharmaceutical options to help with things like muscle and tissue recovery, anxiety, so many different options, libido, that they can help with. But it starts with having that conversation. Now, maybe you're a man who's already on hormone therapy. Here's one thing I'd like you to consider. At Goodwood, they have lowest price, never any contracts, and when you do your every 6-month blood work, they pick up that expense. So if you're paying for that currently at your current clinic, you need to switch. yourgoodwood.com.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Support the businesses that support our team. Click the Our Partners tab today at louisianasports.net and discover more from the local legends backing your favorite shows on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Find the content you crave minus the things that make you rant and rave, all courtesy of our partners at LouisianaSports.net.
Love that. LouisianaSports.net. It's a good website.
You want me to do the other one?
Yep.
If it's happening in Louisiana sports, you'll find it at LouisianaSports.net.
Hey-o.
From the New Orleans Saints and LSU to SEC rivalries, recruiting buzz, and sports betting headlines, we've got the stories that matter. Check it out now at LouisianaSports.net.
And you see what's up right there on the homepage, Muse. Look at that right on the right side of the homepage.
I see Otter Locks.
Otter Locks are live. Not giving them away, though. You got to go to the website. You want them. LouisianaSports.net. It's a website.
Great one, too.
And it's free.
Yep.
Totally free.
Mm-hmm.
No pop-ups. No paywalls.
0.
No freemium.
Nope.
No article limits.
Mm-mm.
None of that. Just free. And you know what else we do not do? We do not aggregate. Like, we don't take somebody else's content and then spin it into our own content. Like, Jordan Reed put out a mock draft today. Here's what it said. No. That's not what we do.
I know a few websites that do that.
Well, a lot of them do.
Yeah.
They're just trying to aggregate clicks. And we don't do that. We'd rather give you, like, good, actual, real, unique, original content. That's our objective at LouisianaSports.net.
The content you crave minus the things that make you rant and rave. I like that line.
Do you think Cade wrote that, or do you think AI wrote that?
I'm not sure. I mean, Cade's pretty clever, man. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
CV comes up with some stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked.
But that does kind of sound like AI.
Make it a poll question. Who wrote the LouisianaSports.net promo? Cade Wazin, the OG AFR producer. By the way. CV, the OG, or AI. I'm gonna say Cade wrote it.
All right.
I'm gonna say Cade wrote it. Are you gonna ask him? You gonna put up the poll?
I was gonna put up the poll.
Yeah,
I can ask him if you want me to do that.
Put up the poll. Tag him as well. See if he weighs in. All right. It's after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. Muso, who's sitting right here, whose voice you just heard, he has Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, we'll start with Major League Baseball. A move that was long thought to be possible. Jeff Passan floated this back in the summer for the first time. Was reported in the New York Post. ESPN confirmed it Tuesday night. Alex Bregman planning to opt out of his contract with the Boston Red Sox. Again, you'll remember 3-year, $120 million deal, and had an opt-out after 25 and 26. It seemed like it was always going to be the path Bregman chose to go back into free agency. I mean, he could still sign back with the Red Sox.
But he won't because he hates Boston.
Got off to a really hot
hates
start.
The Red Sox.
299.
Hates Chowder.
11 homers. 35 RBI.
Hates the Green Monster.
The quad injury.
Hates Ted Williams.
Ended up finishing 273, 18 bombs, and 62 RBI.
Hates Pesky's pole. Hates that stupid song they play after the games.
Dirty
Hates
Water.
The whole thing.
Great song.
Hates the whole thing. Stupid.
We'll see what happens.
Attaboy, Breggy. Get out of Beantown.
It took a long time for Bregman to find his spot last year. We'll see.
You know why
how things go
Bregman
this
wears
time.
number 2, don't you?
Why is that?
You know the answer.
I was going to let you say it.
I would love to hear you say it.
I'm not saying that.
Why does Alex Bregman wear number 2?
It's his favorite number.
Why is it his favorite number?
Tari Eason was on the court for the Rockets.
Because a little guy by the name of Derek Jeter wore number 2.
Never
and it
heard
has
of him.
always been Alex Bregman's dream to play for the Yankees. So come on down, Breggy. It's a year later than we anticipated. 1 year in purgatory. Wearing that ugly-ass uniform.
I mean, Anthony Volpe's got shortstop locked down.
That's okay.
Pretty strong. So I don't know if the dream can happen there.
He can play third or second. I'm good with either. Need the bat. He can find his way somewhere in that
Ryan
lineup.
McMahon's a hell of a third baseman.
He can find his way. I said second. He can find his way somewhere in that lineup. You can mix and match. Look, they made it work.
Jazz Chisholm at second is fantastic.
They made it work. They made it work in Houston when you had Jose Altuve and Correa.
And Carlos Correa.
They made it work. They'll make it work, Muse. They're going to make it work.
But it's not his dream. He wants to play short.
Work.
Tari Eason faced off against the Pelicans last night in NBA preseason action. 20 points for Tari. Couple steals as well. 21 minutes off the bench. Remember, he had a really solid year a season ago. Looking to rebound from that. Arden Key, DNP, today for the Titans. He's got a knee. That's Tigers and Pros.
Presented by Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. I got this text from Martin earlier today. This one ends on Halloween. You got 2 weeks. A second $80 rebate. My goodness. 2 $80 mail-in rebates. It's stackable plus $118 free install with your Shaw Bills credit card. Get there. Shaw Bills. We keep you rolling.
AFR.
That's $278 off a set of Michelin tires at Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bills. We keep you rolling. You know what else is awesome? Parish Construction and Roofing. 2 awesome places. Shaw Bills and Parish Construction and Roofing. Hey, we're kind of in that time of the year where we're getting close to the holidays. Storm season's not over, by the way, but we're getting nearer the end of the season, and so you might start to neglect your roof. But this is a great time, while it's dry out, to have us at Parish Construction and Roofing come give you that free, no-obligation roofing inspection. You can log on to parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com, fill out the form on the homepage, and we'll be in touch. Lickety-split. By the way, we service the whole state of Louisiana, so give us a shout at parishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Parish Construction and Roofing.